Good evening, and here is the answer key for GS Mains Answer Writing Challenge 2. So the question number 1 is, the year of 1858 can be treated as a watershed in India's constitutional, political and administrative history, analyzed in 250 words. So in the introduction part, you will first write about some lines about what led to the introduction of good governance, and in the body parts you will write in the constitution you will write India under British Crown, Office of Secretary of State for India, Council of India and Secretary of State, Office of Court of Director and Board of Control abolished. In the political, you will write about the doctrine of lapse was withdrawn, liberty was given to Indian rulers subject to British sovereignty, withdrawal from social reforms, divide and rule policy, and in the administration part you will write entry to India into civil services, racial segregation and martial class into army, dual government was abolished. And in the conclusion, you write about the British Crown and Parliament already has substantial interest and control over East India Company by introduction of various Charter Acts. So I just want to tell you that just note one point, that around 8 to 10 points are required in answer in the body parts, and each of 3 parts need equal concentration. So include accordingly, and also add some 1 to 2 line explanation is needed in each and every points in the like this administration, political and constitutional. Okay, now I have just mentioned, I just note down the points. What are the points that you have to mention in your answers? Now for the question number 2, the Government of India Act 1935 is a watershed in India's constitutional history, elucidated in 250 words. So you will write in the introduction, the Government of India Act was passed by the British Parliament in August 1935. It was the longest act enacted by the British Parliament at that time, and many Indian Council Act of 1892, 1909, 1919 were enacted. But the most important act which saved the contemporary as well as later polity of India was the Government of India Act 1935. Now in the body part, you will write about the act was based on the Simon Commission report, the recommendation of Roundtable Conference, and the report of Joint Select Committee. And you will also mention about silent features. What were the silent features in Government of India Act 1935? About the abolition of Indian Council and the introduction of advisory body in its place, provision for an all India federation with British Indian territories and princely states, elaborate some safeguards and protective instruments for minorities, supremacy of British Parliament, and increase in the size of legislature, extension of franchise, and some other parts also. So, and the act had far-reaching repercussions, like some provisional autonomy was granted. This was the first time that this had been allowed and was seen as an important step forward. It granted more voting rights to the people of India, that is 25% of the population of India was now having right to vote, which was 5 times larger than that in 1909. The act also recommended it as a federation form of government for India, which enables the princes to participate in the political affairs of India, and the parliamentary system has been set up in which the Indian people were to gain increasing representations. And in the conclusion, you write that the act was milestone in the development of a responsible constitutional government of India. And the Government of India Act 1935 was replaced by the Constitution of India after independence. And these are the points which you will mention in your answers. I just wanted to tell you one thing, that you just note one point in this question, that the focus is the watershed. So most of us used to write about the features of the act, while the focus has been on the fact and as to how it was different from previous act, and how it shaped the future political procedure of India. So the quality of answer is not decided by the number of facts you have mentioned in the answer, but the relevance of the fact. So please provide some relevance to the facts. Don't write only the features of the fact. Okay. In the question number 3, the operation of FRBM Act, this is just whatever I have mentioned in the previous video while discussing about the questions. I just write that only. So please go through the answers. In the in the question 4, what are the various dimensions of ethics? So you will first write the introduction part. Ethics means moral principle that govern a person's behavior of conducting of an activity. In the body part, you will write the dimension of ethics. What were the dimensions of ethics? Like fairness or justice approach, utilitarian approach, right approach, virtue or value approach. And an administrator should be ethically despite existence of laws. So law may be comprehensive, but its effective implementation can only be ensured when an administrator is ethical enough to implement it in true spirit. A law, no matter how comprehensive, cannot cover every dimension. like social, political, economical. Okay, and not everything and not every situation can be written in laws. Based on different situations, law needs interpretation that can be ethically as well as legally right. So it is said that ethics come when laws are silent. This means that where law cannot determine an action, it needs to be judged on the basis of ethical values. So for this reason, an administrator should be ethical despite the existence of the laws. And here is the conclusion. And in the current affairs, recently the Supreme Court has condemned that the incident of mob lynching and suggested some measures to deal with it. In the light of a statement, discuss the concern raised by the Supreme Court and preventive, remedial and punitive measures suggested by it to deal with the mob violence and lynching. So here you will write about how the recently Supreme Court has asked the central government to enact a law to deal with incidents of lynching and take action on mob violence. So as a result, two high-level committee has been constituted by the central government to suggest ways and legal framework to effectively deal with the incidents of mob lynching and violence. Now, what are the concerns raised by the Supreme Court? You will write these points. And now, what are the Supreme Court has suggested? What should be the preventive, remedial, and punitive action should be there? So I have mentioned all the points. So please go through that. Okay. And thank you, friends. That's all.